Okay, so I apologize, but here we are once again, and we don't have a lot of great footage of our first couple days of travel, mostly because the learning curve was about that big, and we didn't have a lot of time to take any photos. So we just thought we'd tell you the story verbally, and you could get a feel for what our first couple days of travel were like. Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Diane.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. The mate was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and sure. 5 passengers set sail that day for a 3-hour tour, a 3-hour tour. The weather started getting rough, the tiny ship was tossed. If not for the courage of the fearless crew, the minnow would be lost. The minnow would be lost. The ship's aground on the shore of this uncharted desert.
This will be our first Docktails. Well, Docktails on video anyways. We're going to talk about, I said in the introduction, it's our first 3 days of travel. It's actually our first 4 days of travel we're going to talk about. And we've already said we spent weeks and weeks at the service dock and getting work done that we didn't expect. So we were pretty impatient about wanting to get out on the water and get going because time was ticking. And the first good day we saw, we decided it was time to go. Well, we knew it was about 10-mile-an-hour winds out in the ocean, and that we should be fine in that, but 20 is really pushing it, and certainly gusts of 30 or 40 or anything like that, we're not equipped to handle that kind of traffic. And we knew that later on in the day it was going to get to be 20 miles an hour.
But Mother Nature had other plans and decided to bring the high winds about an hour into our journey.
Yeah.
And that was
It was horrible.
yeah.
So
In my words, we're gonna die out here.
yeah, I showed the introduction to Gilligans Island in this because it's very fitting. We were in deep trouble. The waves were actually coming over the enclosure on the top of our boat. And this boat couldn't possibly handle that.
And we were being pushed up out of our chairs, and up on the bridge there's a bell, and it kept dinging like the death toll bell.
So I looked at the map and I was able to find an inlet back into the Intercoastal Waterway. But everybody had told us not to take the Intercoastal Waterway because it's not very well managed by the state of New Jersey, and there's a lot of shallows and a lot of shoaling. But now we've pulled in there and we're circling the inlet, trying to catch our breath from this emergency we just gone through out in the water. And we decided our best bet is to take the Intercoastal Waterway. But we didn't have a course set for the Intercoastal Waterway. We just said, we'll follow the buoys. And we reached a point, and we were doing very well most of the morning and most of the day, and then we reached a point where the buoys just ended, and we didn't know what to make of that. So we looked around, we found some other buoys, and it turned out it was another inlet, but we didn't know that. And if we'd had a course set, we would have known that. But we started to follow that course when, bam, we ran aground and the boat was sitting on the sandy bottom. Thank God it was a sandy bottom, not a rocky bottom. Mind you, that's still the first day of travel. And
Captain Joe was able to pop us in reverse and do some finagling and got us off the sandbar, at which point we decided to let's just turn around and get back to the deeper waters, which weren't all that deep. It was about 7 or 8 feet. We saw a sea tow operator that we radioed to just help us get out of the situation we were in.
He let us clean across that inlet where the buoys had stopped, and I felt like duh, if I'd have known that was just an inlet and I could just drive across it, we wouldn't have run into all this trouble.
But at that point, we kind of had enough for the day, and we were like, we need to just dock somewhere and get our heads together and figure out what our next plan is. So he did find us a spot at a marina on a fuel dock, but at that point we didn't care. We just wanted to park it. In the process of backing in, there was some shaking on the starboard engine. We thought that maybe we did some damage, so we talked to a dockhand who gave us the name of a diver that we could get just to check things out. We wanted to make sure we didn't damage our prop or our shaft or something on the bottom of the boat. We ended up having to wait 2 or 3 days for the diver, but luckily other than taking some paint off, we didn't suffer any damage. So
there we had another couple of days on the service dock, basically waiting for the diver, and we were in good shape, but our nervous tension was not okay. This was our first day out, and everything about it was a disaster. You get to feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing, even though we've been boating for most of our lives together. And we did come up with a plan A, and that was that from now on we were just going to travel up the intercoastal waterways 2 hours before high tide and up to 2 hours after high tide, and wherever we ended up, that was going to be it. And we weren't going to go anywhere in low tide or risk being in low tide, because at this point we didn't even know anything about lower high tide other than a graph, and so that was going to be our plan. But then Diane had this app called Nebo, and Nebo showed us where another boat was just a few miles ahead of us, another looper boat called Tina B. And I was able to reach out to Tina B and ask if we could follow them, and Tina B replied that that's fine, but they're waiting for another boat to come up from Cape May, named the Pauhana. So we waited for the Pauhana. We had binoculars out. We were staring at the water. We were all set for Pauhana, and Pauhana showed up, and we're like, "Get the lines! We're following these people."
And we were very at that point just grateful to have just other loopers with us, and to buddy boat, and as Tina B said, security in numbers. So so we got out of the port and proceeded to follow Pauhana, and it took us a while to get to Tina B. We got to Tina B, and we continued on, the three of us, to Atlantic City, and Pauhana told us he was anchoring out across from Atlantic City, so we're like, okay, we'll just follow you in. And it was a beautiful inlet, but again, very shallow. It
was pretty neat. It was pretty neat, pulling into this shallow opening to get into there. We were like, there was a grassy side to the inlet, and by grass I mean the beach. There was grass growing, and we were only 10 feet from the grass, from the shore. It was nerve-wracking, and in hindsight pretty cool that we drove through that little area.
So the three of us got into this little nice protected bay, and everybody's getting ready to drop anchor for the night, and we go to drop our anchor, and it won't drop.
It's stuck.
And Joe's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "It's stuck." And best we can figure is when we were out on those waves on the ocean, that the chain just kind of got knotted up, because before we ever left New Jersey, while our boat was still sitting on land, we had dropped the anchor in the parking lot to make sure that it worked. So Joe had to quickly show me how to drive the boat in circles, because we did have our spare anchor. And
So here we are, Pauhana and Tina B. They're long since got their anchors out. They're having margarita or whatever they're doing on the back deck, watching us as we spent the next hour circling around this inlet. Is this anchorage, and I got what Diane learned how to drive the boat, and I got our spare anchor out, and I was able to throw the spare anchor out and get a hold, and we were all set. And just for the heck of it, I tried lowering the anchor one more time. This is like 2 hours of goofing around. I tried lowering the anchor one more time, and that anchor went out just like that. It was crazy and frustrating to see that happen, but it's great stories.
So we decided, rather than pull up the anchor that we had just thrown out and pull up and drop the one that is mechanical, that we would just stay put for the night. And Pauhana wanted to pull out at 5 a.m. because of the tides. So we got up at 3:30 in the morning and got ourselves all ready. Joe got up on the bow of the boat to pull up anchor, and that was well, I'll let him tell that part of the story.
Well, so I'm pulling up the anchor, and I was doing pretty well, so long as I was pulling up the rope. Diane was driving the boat, and she'd move up, and she'd keep moving up and giving me some slack on the line. And then I reached the point where I had chain, and I realized, so because of the way the boat moves, you can only pull the rope up while you have slack. You can't hold a 22,000-pound boat by hand. So you'd pull up the slack, and then you tie the rope. I would tie the rope around the cleat. And then I'd get some more slack, and I'd pull it up, and I'd tie it around the cleat. Well, when I got to the chain, I realized I can't tie that around the cleat. What the heck am I going to do? How do I get this chain up and this anchor up at this point? I have no way of holding it. And I realized that with some thought, that I had these carabiners, I think they're called, and it's like a hook, and I tied a rope to it. I made 2 of them, and I tied hooks to it. And Diane would give me some slack on the chain, and I would hook the chain, and then she would pull up again, and I'd hook the chain again, and I kept maybe getting it up a foot at a time. And all this is covered with the nastiest mud from the bottom of the ocean, bottom of this lagoon, whatever you want to call it. I can't even describe to you the smell of this nasty mud. And by this point, I'm covered with that nasty mud, because from top to bottom, my jeans, my shirt, my clothes, my face, this nasty, stinky mud is all over me. And I did eventually get the anchor up. Pauhana and Tina B were so nice and to wait for us, because it's now 7 a.m. So we've already been up for 4 hours or so trying to get the anchor up, and they did wait for us, and appreciate that so much.
That's what the boating community and loopers are all about, helping each other out.
And mind you that, so that's our second travel day is finished. Now our third day, we drove the entire distance from Atlantic City to
Barnegat Bay?
No.
Point Pleasant.
Point Pleasant. And lots of fun videos on Point Pleasant if you're interested in looking them up. And that was fairly uneventful. We hit bottom a lot because we had a lot of shallows that we hit, and the Pauhana got stuck once, and I had no idea what I was doing. This is only our third travel day, and Tina B pulled them out by getting a rope out to their bow. I probably wish that I'd helped more, but I had no idea what I was doing. I was just happy to. I'm still thinking I'm happy to have survived the ocean 2 days ago. So they pulled off there. We made it through Point Pleasant Canal. We got to Hoffman Marina, and Hoffman Marina had these docks where you pull and slip. It was a fixed slip, and the dock was higher than our handrail, and about, I don't know, I'd guess 12 to 18 inches wide. So it was like walking the balance beam in high school, trying to get out of there while with a 6 foot drop to the water and boats on both sides of you.
And you step off the dock and you're still moving from being on the boat, and like you're rocking back and forth and you're trying to balance on this.
Yeah, that's a crazy phenomenon. So we're so used to the boat rocking that we feel okay with that. When we get on dry land is when we feel like everything's moving.
So in any case, we the 3 boats were all parked in different parts of the marina, so we radioed each other, and Pauhana said they were going to meet up there was a restaurant on site, so he said, let's all meet up, and so we headed up for dinner and met the captain and crew on both Pauhana and Tina B for the first time after traveling with them for 2 days, which was pretty neat.
Yeah, because up to that point, it was all we knew of them is really their boat name that we were calling over the radio. So it was pretty cool to have the opportunity to meet them and sit down and talk and have dinner.
So then the next morning we were going to be leaving Hoffman's Marina and going out through Manasquin Inlet, which again is really with these inlets. Point Pleasant. These inlets where the ocean is crashing into this narrow strip of inlet just creates for some crazy waves. We did manage to get through there pretty well.
But our navigation equipment failed. It wasn't telling me how fast I was going. It didn't have a course on it. It didn't tell me how deep the water was. And so we had to hold back, and Tina B and Pauhana moved out ahead of us 15-20 minutes or more ahead of us while we tried to figure out how to use our navigation equipment. And it turned out there was nothing wrong with the navigation equipment. It's really, we didn't know enough about how to use it. Up to that point, it had been working fine, and we didn't know that there was something we were doing right to make it work fine. We just turned everything on, and suddenly none of that information was there. So I figured all that out, got that going properly.
And we were able to see exactly where Pauhana and Tina B were out on the ocean, which this day, I don't think I slept the night before because I was so in fear of going back out on the ocean again. But it really was a beautiful day, and really calm waters. And we were able to see where the other 2 boats were by using the Nebo app. And we can go a little faster than they can, so we actually did catch up to them. So this is travel day 4. So we're really newbies at this point, and everything, all these disasters, all this bad anchor, ocean, hitting ground, weird marina where we have to walk like a bounty, all this stuff was like, we were just getting started. This was really stressful at this point. And so we got a call that my dad had passed away, and we knew my dad was going to pass away, but I kind of figured it was going to be a few more months yet, not on our 4th travel day. We got
out. We caught up with Tina B and Pauhana, and we kind of hit the gas, and we let them know we couldn't stay with them anymore. We wanted to get up the Hudson, get into New York City, and get up the Hudson as fast as we could, because we had to figure out how to get back to Buffalo, and how to leave the boat somewhere. So we drove up. Where did we stop? Haverstraw Bay.
Well, first off, we did get to see the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, we did.
Can't get through New York Harbor without seeing the statue. But it was disappointing because at the same time we did get some beautiful pictures, but
Yeah, we couldn't
couldn't really stop. Generally, the thing that the looper community does is, if you're able to travel with somebody, they'll take a picture of you on your boat in front of the statue. So we're missing that, but
So what we did was we kind of hightailed it up to Haverstraw Bay, and found an anchorage. We found out later that this anchorage was beautiful. I'll throw in some pictures here, I think, so you can see it. It was just a beautiful place to be. But I found out later there's a very small path that you have to take to enter it, and there's rocks all around, and if you don't hit that exact path, you're going to be on the rocks. We didn't know that. We just followed our Navionics course, and fortunately Navionics knew exactly where to take us. But then Diane did a whole lot of calling and a whole lot of looking and a whole lot of research, and found us a place to be.
well, I reached out to, again, the AGLCA, the Loopers Association, has harbor hosts, so I was able to look on a map and find one that was close by to where we were, and just reach out and say, we need some help. We got to figure out how to get to Buffalo. So they had suggested that we, I'm not sure if it was the east or west side of the Hudson, but to find a place, and that there was an Amtrak station very east side, that there was an Amtrak station very close by, and that we'd either have to Uber to or possibly find somebody that could take us to the station. So now I started calling Amtrak to get a train out. And in the meantime, there was a marina just across from where we were, Cortland Yacht Club, who had actually reached out because they saw us on Nebo and said, hey, if you need a place to stay, we offer daily or weekly rates, just reach out. So Joe did that while I was taking care of Amtrak, and we made arrangements to go there the next morning. And they were great.
I can't say enough good about how nice those people were to us.
They were, the slips were very narrow. We didn't think we were going to fit, but they had people waiting at the end of the dock for us to direct us in, and then they came down the dock and they helped us dock. And in the process of all that, we had told them what our situation was, and one of the other boaters that was on the slip, who's not part of the Great Loop Association or anything, said, what time do you need to be to the Amtrak station? And I told him, and he said, all right, be out on the dock, I'm going to take you. And I'll pick you up when you return to Buffalo, or back from Buffalo. So, again, wonderful people.
And another, after we got back from Buffalo, another couple on the docks asked us if we need to go grocery shopping, and they took us grocery shopping, and it was just such a nice thing to do. And still there was there was a piece of a post near the bathrooms, where somebody was saying that they would clean your boat for $3 a foot. And we thought that sounded like a great idea. We'd gotten a lot of carbon on the boat, and a lot of carbon on the boat from moving up, driving so fast up the Hudson, and some of that stinky ass mud all over the bow from the anchor experience. And so we asked, and it turned out to be, asked him to do that, and it turned out to be like a 16 or 17-year-old kid, and he did just such a great job of cleaning the boat. I couldn't have been more happy. We did get to meet them. I was surprised to find out it's just a kid doing something like that. It's hard to find kids that are working at 17 years old helping people wash their boats.
And here we made those arrangements while we were en route to Buffalo. And he just went and washed our boat and said, "Don't worry about payment until you get back."
Yeah.
Like it's just unheard of. Who's gonna do something like that without taking some kind of payment up front? So we got back, and that was July 2nd or 3rd. So we had asked the Cortland Yacht Club, you know, we had gotten back, we needed groceries, we just needed to settle back in after returning from Buffalo. So they were gracious enough to let us stay on an extra 2 days, and we did get to watch fireworks over the Hudson. We weren't in the best place, but we did at least get to see a few fireworks.
We weren't in the best place for seeing fireworks.
Yeah, for seeing fireworks.
That's our first 4 travel days, and we're headed for the Erie Canal at this point, and we'll let you know how that works out. Anything else? There you go.
Hope you enjoyed the video.